Call of the Storm Sorcerer. The Serpentine Throne, Book 1. Written by Susan Stradiato. Narrated by Kim Churchill. Prologue. The First Emperor of Nantai. Mairynne, ascended emperor of the Nantai people and first within the elite caste, the Storm Sorcerers, rocked back and forth on the balls of his feet, his legs bent, chest pressed tight to his knees, head down, and hands covering his ears. He wailed, "Stay out of my head and heart!" Within the jewel city of Arashi, his mental intruder had reduced him to a cowering man, alone in a black cave beneath his beloved Storm's Keep. He hid in darkness, squeezing his eyes ever tighter in an effort to shutter his mind from the voice, to armor his heart from the feelings of otherness bound to his soul. "This plan you've written will bring you no peace." The voice inside rumbled as loudly as if someone other than he could hear, as deeply as thunder. Mairynne could call the clouds and thunder to shield himself from the presence and sound, were he outside, if only he had access to the elements. Instead, he chanted, "No, no, no," and curled tighter into himself. He'd chosen the cavern for its absence of windows, and had had a door installed to further block out any light. The measures deprived his senses and restricted his sorcery, but that was the price he willingly paid to silence the beast within. Seclusion and darkness had worked for a time, and the Ryū dragon had slept until he grew hungry and sensed his prison. As he stirred again within, Mairynne could feel Kiroi's nerves thrumming under his own skin, trying to escape. He stood, gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and fought the heat rising in his blood and the prickle across his skin where scales threatened to erupt. He refused to shift. He threw his head back and yelled, "No!" into the darkness, his voice coming back to his ears over and over again until it silenced. "I won't let it happen again. I cannot. Mairynne, answer unto me. Why do you wish this thing?" the fiend bellowed. "It will break us both. Leave me, you accursed spirit." Mairynne growled through his teeth, spittle wetting his chin. "This is not the way, Minikin." "Do not call me that!" the Emperor's voice echoed again as the door crept inward. "Pardon, Tenyo?" a timid yet familiar voice asked, using Mairynne's honorary title even though the two were related. "Morwine," he breathed, panted. "Come, brother, and close the door behind you." Light beamed into the room, and Mairynne squinted against its burn. He paused, listening and feeling, then breathed with relief that Kiroi had retreated to some place deeper inside, if only for a time. Morwine's feet shuffled against the floor, his steps less sure than the Emperor's, who'd learned every knot and bump on every stone within the room over time. Mairynne paced, demanding, "Is the separation ritual prepared?" "Yes, Tenyo. Nantai awaits you now. I've brought material for your eyes if you'll find me here in the dark. Then I will guide you to the chamber he has readied." Though this was the right path, the only path toward seeing himself whole once again, the Emperor paused. "Tenyo, Mairynne?" Morwine asked. Yes. He rubbed a hand over his beard, the whiskers no longer bristling under the touch, as they'd grown long enough in the darkness to become soft. Aloud, but not directed at Morwine, in truth, he mused. "So the time has come at last." "Yes, Tenyo. I have prepared everything as you wished." Mairynne took a deep breath and closed his eyes as he exhaled slowly. Though he might perish in the casting by the shaman who'd separate him from the Ryū dragon within, he felt a certain peace, a sense of rightness in his decision. Yet Two things gave him pause, tempting him to reconsider. He'd held himself in darkness for so long, only allowing the tiniest of flame on occasion to pen a decree, and his brother would be a weak ruler for the Nantai people while he recovered. Mourns had been his mouthpiece for some number of moons. How many? The Emperor couldn't count, but Mourns remained little more than a puppet for Mackanine's decrees. No one person across Nantai could speak to the results of the impending ritual, for none before had dared attempt to sever the soul-deep bond between a person and his Ryū dragon.
"I beg of you, minikin, do not go through with this ritual,"
Kuroi said. Hissing, Mackanine pressed his palms to his ears as if he could block the sound. Pointless. It came from inside. He walked to his brother, only needing the sound of his breathing to locate his position.
"Give me the material. I am ready."
Mourns made no reply, but the Emperor found his fumbling hands and took the length of fabric, deftly folding it on the diagonal.
"Tenyo, Mackanine, if I may."
In the darkness, the Emperor could hear the slight rasp where his brother twisted and wrung his hands, the ever-present nerves and uncertainty that made him a poor fit for Emperor of the Nantai people. Mackanine sucked in a sharp breath as he secured the fold about his eyes.
"What is it, brother?" Are you certain of this? The green dragon, Gwyn?"
the Emperor prompted, surprise riddling his mind. Why would Mourns mention her, Kuroi's mate?
"Yes, since you have been in isolation, the green dragon has been circling over Arashi and the keep almost daily. She's a frightful Ryū, and our people shrink and hide in their homes, fearing her wrath. Have you not heard her cries, Tenyo?"
This deep within the belly of Stormskeep, insulated by the mountain and the castle's foundation, he heard none of the sounds from above. Indeed, he had longed for the normal sounds, servants bustling about, or the sound of the Sundai Falls, and the feel of their mists upon his face as he stood upon his terrace. Resolved, he answered,
"Mourns, that I have not heard things from above in uncountable months, that I have not been a citizen of my own empire, and that this presence inside me refuses to leave me in peace. Those are all reasons why I have commanded Nitine to complete this ritual."
Mackanine took a deep breath, his shoulders expanding and contracting.
"Then the beasts can leave Stormskeep and the city of Arashi, and hopefully Nantai itself, together. You see, I am giving them what they want." "That is not how it will work,"
the beast grumbled.
"What do you know?"
Mackanine roared. Mourns shuffled away at the sound. The Emperor sighed, attempting to gather himself. Of course, all his brother had heard was Mackanine's reaction. He inhaled and sighed again.
"You see, brother, I must do this thing to rid my soul of its ghosts. Now, you will take me to Nitine."
He moved closer to his brother, taking hold of Mourns' elbow and leading him to the door, the end of his dark domain. The walk was a journey of 387 paces, 24 spiral stone steps, and another 72 paces to the chambers Nitine had prepared. Mourns trembled the entire time under Mackanine's grip. As they entered, smoky smells of herbs burning in a fire and hearty smells of something brewing wafted through the air. The small sound of liquid bubbling reached Mackanine's ears, and it felt tepid and sticky inside.
"Is it dark enough, brother?"
he asked, hesitant to remove the material from his eyes.
"Yes."
Mourns' arm slipped from his grip. With eyes uncovered, he took in the room with sight and sound, musing over the connection between the two senses. Upon the far wall, a large opening lay hidden by layers of heavy material to shut out most of the light. It worked, but for a bright line on either side. Mairynne averted his eyes from those points as the brightness stung, but knowing of the opening behind the drape, he listened too. So near the sundial falls, the sound of rushing water soothed his soul for long moments, a sight he longed to behold again. Waters he wished to call upon with his own storm sorcery, and stir forth a shower that would wash away the darkness and grime. The time would come. One day soon, he'd no longer be a prisoner to this evil within. Nantai awaited behind a waist-high stone slab. A storm sorcerer who'd adopted shamanism and studied spellcasting in relation to ritualistic magics for years, Nantai would be the savior of all Mairynne held close, the one to separate the Ryū dragon from Mairynne's soul. Black robes hung upon Nantai's narrow shoulders, every one of his features thin and angular. Even the shape of his brows, mustache, and black beard emphasized the sharp slants of his cheekbones and jaws. He spread his arms, the robes falling like crow's wings, then lay his twig-like fingers upon the stone.
My Tenyo, you will disrobe and lay here upon your stomach.
A shriek sounded outside the cavern's hidden opening, and all three men jumped. Mairynne's blood and skin heated in reply, and he had to lock down his muscles to control the shift. With his eyes closed, and through clenched teeth, he said,
"Soon, Ryū. Soon you will be free to go with her."
He refused to voice the evil spirit's name. Inside, the grumble came again.
"This is madness, Minikin. This will not work as you desire. I warn you of that."
Mairynne's eyes flew open, and he looked about the chambers wildly. The others hadn't heard the gravelly voice, only his. The Emperor snapped.
"We must begin. Mairynne, are you ready with your oaths?"
He must be certain things were in order.
"Yes, Tenyo. And the High Cloud Court is due to arrive on the morrow, so I may ascend and tend to matters of the realm whilst you recover."
Mairynne's brows pinched together, holding his worry tight upon his forehead. As the man had been born of the same mother and father, he resembled the image Mairynne recalled of himself in the mirror. But Mairynne also seemed meeker. The Emperor said a quick prayer to the Triad that his recovery would be swift, that he'd be fit to rule in a short time. With a nod, he removed his clothes. Nantai offered him a bowl with a green-tinged liquid. Mairynne quirked a brow.
"The potion will calm you, keep you still, and lessen the pain, my Tenyo."
Nantai's features portrayed naught of what he possibly thought in the moment. Though he accepted the bowl, Mairynne said,
"I've commissioned you well, Nantai. I trust that this is no poison. Tenyo, with respect due to you as Emperor, I am not to receive the second half of my commission until I successfully perform this task. Furthermore, if you die in the process, my fate is likewise death. You have offered sufficient incentive to see to your health and longevity, Tenyo."
He bowed his head then, stiffly. Mairynne drank, the putrid liquid poorly disguised by bees' nectar, and climbed onto the stone slab. Despite the heat and humidity that hung about, the stone felt cool. Shivers ran through his body as he lowered his feverish skin onto the rock. When he rested flat upon his stomach, he felt cooler on the front than he could recall since bonding with the Ryū. Yet the skin upon his back was still ablaze. Still within the Emperor's sight, Nantai meandered around the room, collecting a knife, some wicked hinged device, and bowls. He gathered coals from the fire inside an enormous stone bowl, and the knife tinkled when he placed it inside. While the blade heated, he cleared the sizable area in front of the heavy curtains, presumably where the Ryū would rest in dragon form after the ritual, the long-awaited moment when Mairynne and Kiroy Dragon were once again individuals. A haze settled over Mairynne as more wine stepped close to his head.
"Brother,"
he whispered in the familiar, a catch to his voice.
"I will be right here with you for the duration, in that corner there where you may see me, and until you heal, I will see to your empire."
Mairynne's eyes drifted closed, then slowly open again, and his lips felt numb. Inside, Kiroy's soul felt heavy too, but with melancholy rather than potion. That was well enough. It would all be over soon. Nantai chanted incomprehensible incantations, and likely an invocation of some ill deity he'd found to aid in the ritual. Though Nantai had assured Mairynne the ritual would achieve his ultimate desire, he'd wished to know little of the workings. Nantai had warned of the pain, but the Emperor considered that temporary, a fair price to be alone with his mind and body once again.
"All is prepared,"
Nantai said, the words seeming distant and slurred.
"I must create the exit along the spine. The potion will hold you still, but I fear you must endure the pain awake."
Mairynne tried to nod, but his body was indeed immobile. He marveled over the feeling. Everything seemed like a smoke dream, yet he remained aware. Nantai reached for the knife resting in the coals. The blade glowed. The shaman moved behind him, out of sight. Then nothing happened for what felt like an eternity until sharp, hot, severing pain descended at the base of his neck. Mairynne tried to scream. Nothing. The pain traced down his back. Sizzling reached his ears. His mind told him to flee. Nothing. The smell of roasting flesh filled his nose. The searing moved between his shoulders, along his spine. Nantai hissed, and there was more pressure in the center of his back. Mairynne could do naught but endure. More sizzling, stronger odors. Pain again, moving down his lower back all the way to his tailbone. The motion stopped, his back pulsing in agony, his soul wanting to cry to the heavens, but his body frozen.
"I've completed the first step,"
breathed Nantai. As he took the knife back to the coals and placed the bloodied blade inside, he murmured more foreign words. Mairynne wanted to cry, breathe heavier, anything, but the potion regulated everything. Every involuntary action continued at a fixed tempo. His back pulsed, and the sound of metal clashing and ringing filled his ears, though he thought that only inside. Nantai lifted the hinged thing and once again moved out of sight. Had he control, Mairynne would gasp in fear, shock. Yet his body wouldn't listen to his urges. At the center of his back, he felt pressure and something sliding inside, gripping at his spine. A peal sounded from the instrument, and his back separated. Crackling came where ribs parted from spine, and his body rounded forward by force. Nantai chanted. Metal clanged. More wine, in the corner's shadows, bent and retched. And Mairynne lay utterly still, his back split from neck to tailbone, his body arching from the stone as a force beyond reckon pulled at his soul. Nantai chanted, volume growing above the din with every exotic word. Everything screeched, twisted, echoed, pulled, pounded, and writhed, until his mind could withstand the torment no more.